All right. Well, you both seem very confident in your picks for the first game. Garrett, why don't you take us through number 2?
Okay, the second game I'm not so sure about. You know, we've got the Stormers at home against the Force. The Stormers, bottom of the South African Conference, bottom of the overall conference, against the Force side that's been really impressive this season. They're flying high in the Australian Conference and in the playoff spot in the overall conference. They've just come off a very good victory in Bloemfontein on their first tour match against the Cheetahs. Now they're back down. Well, they're down in Cape Town. You know, on paper, you'd think that the Force should win. You know, they've got a settled side. They haven't made many changes this season. They're playing some really good rugby. On the flip side, you've got the Stormers at home. We've talked many times about how much this home ground advantage counts. The Stormers team on paper is certainly one of the weakest and worst teams I've ever seen. The bench is really, really weak. You know, if they pick up any injuries to their starting 15 early in the match, it's going to be a real struggle for those coming off the bench to fit in. Got a controversial selection of Peter Grant back at fly-half. He's played fly-half, inside centre, fullback, and back to fly-half this season. Hasn't been that spectacular in any of those positions. Kurt Coleman, who played last week, although in a losing effort against the Bulls, was really, really impressive. I would have liked to have seen him given more of a chance at number 10. But Peter Grant, in his 100th game as well, that needs to be remembered. You know, the Stormers teams tend to get up for when their teammates are playing such important milestone matches. So it's a bit of a coin toss, sorry, for me, this game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Force win, you know, at all. On the flip side, like I said, the home ground advantage for the Stormers. I'm going for the Stormers by 1, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do lose.
Stormers by 1?
1 point.
All right, Rob.
Half a point if I could give it to them by that.
Rob, are you as undecided as Garrett is?
No, I'm gonna be a little bit braver than he is even. I'm going Stormers by 3 points.
Come on.
So still incredibly tight, and I say this with no special confidence. But it's funny, Garen, because you remember how at the start of the season you would have looked at a Stormers Force game fairly late on in the season and thought, well, that's a game that the Stormers could target for a sort of easy win, on the assumption that the Stormers would be fairly high riding on the table and that the Force would not be contending this year. Instead, things have happened completely in reverse. The Force are the ones who are fighting really hard for a playoff spot. They're in an excellent position to do that. And the Stormers, of course, are just playing for pride, even with several games left in the season. So it's almost an unbelievable situation. And I just wonder if a little bit of sanity isn't going to sort of be restored, and that the Stormers will actually manage to pull this one out. I still think that teams can't take for granted coming to Newlands and winning. I'm not sure what the size of the crowd will be like. You know, the Stormers beginning to lose, obviously, a lot of their faithful, because, you know, people we've seen in the past, you'll get 40 or 50,000 people at Newlands when the Stormers are on a high and heading towards the playoffs or the semis or something. And of course, that's not happening this season. We know that they're in a very experimental phase, a real time of transition, and the Gates have been, you know, sort of giving some idea of the sort of disillusionment that's been happening in the Cape Town public. So that home ground advantage, perhaps not quite as much of a factor as the Stormers would normally anticipate, but I still think that they might just do it.